Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Echelon Cycling Podcast, where we discuss what's been going on in the week and look ahead to the week ahead, or even further. And as always, I'm with Patrick Blake of Outdo Cycling and Mr. Crow himself, Ewan Wilson. And yeah, despite the traditional cyclist fan seeing this as the end of the season, there have been plenty of races going on. And I mean, where best to start with? Podcast favorite, Alexey Lutsenko, absolutely dominating in Tour of Turkey. And what did you guys think of this race?
It was inevitable, wasn't it? Obviously, Alexey Lutsenko was going to be the Alexey Lutsenko of that race. And, it wasn't even close. It was the most brutal climb. Lutsenko's going to win Tour de France next year. Everything is aligning. People are saying that this climb needs to be included in a sort of Grande Partenza sort of style thing, send the tour to Turkey just for this one climb. Sorry, Turkey. I'll get it correct. And also, didn't Tejada of Astana also finish in third place? So Astana coming good at the end of the year, obviously looking to keep that momentum going with Cav into next year. So it's all good in the Astana camp at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's also quite cool to see Ben Svihov finish in second place as well. The former mountain biker who moved over to Bora Hansgrohe a couple of years back, rode the Giro last year in that winning team with Jai Hindley. Almost forgot his name there for a second. But he finished second overall, which is cool to see. Also, Monegasque rider Victor Langalotti took a stage win, which is very, very impressive indeed for a rider from a very, very small country, well, very small principality. But, I mean, the sprints very Jasper Philipsen heavy, but he's now surpassed Tadej Pogacar with the most wins this season, and he probably will not get caught unless someone absolutely dominates the. Let me have a look here. The Vuelta Ciclista Internacional de Guatemala next week.
That was a Miguel Angel Lopez.
Yes.
Miguel Angel Lopez might have the most wins.
Very true. I think
victories.
He stepped up a level. Speaking of which, I know they're not the same. Nairo Quintana's got transfer rumors about him at the moment.
Has it?
Jacob Alula apparently linked to Quintana.
Bahrain victorious as well, I heard. But
anyone with some kind of Middle Eastern connection to their team is interested in Nairo Quintana with the Alula Bahrain thing. Interesting.
But I mean, you're jumping the gun here. That's transfer corners. We'll get to that. Oops. But Nico Dents also took a victory. We kind of missed him out for rider or signing of the week last week. And I think that was quite bad considering two Giro stage wins. So Alexey Lutsenko, just remarkable win. And yeah, I mean, at some point he'll message us, I guess. He's probably going to be rider of the week from someone. But yeah, then we come to the final World Tour race in China, and the headlines weren't necessarily the race itself. Something, involving Intermarché and giving them an absolute PR nightmare.
Yes, if you haven't seen, there was a bad Instagram story posted by Gerben Thijssen, the Belgian sprinter, of his teammate Madis Mikhels, who's just 20 years of age, from Estonia, pulling a racist gesture on his story. It was a joke, but it didn't go down very well, rightly so. It didn't go down very well. And the story was then taken down, but the damage was done. Madis Mikhels was kicked out of the race, and Intermarché, to their positive, released they released a really, really good statement online of what the riders had done wrong and how they were going to move forward with this incident. So fair play to Intermarché for that, but yeah, really a low blow from Gerben Thijssen and from Madis Mikhels. You come to a new country and you think okay, respect people at least, and they go straight in with the racist gesture. Not cool, guys.
It's we were so close to the end of the season as well. We were on the verge of just everyone putting it to bed, and that happens. It's it was a bit of a daft thing to do, to be honest with you, and hopefully they won't do it again. Basically, let's put it that way.
But did they not think it was wrong? That's what first did they not realize it was
did Maddies not think that's a bit sketchy, and did Gerben Thijssen then think, maybe I shouldn't post this?
Yeah, there's one thing doing it in private. I mean, you shouldn't do it in private anyway, but there's one thing doing it publicly.
Yeah. But But like you say, Intermarché dealt with it very professionally, so hats off to them for clamping down on that immediately. That was really good.
How about not being racist in your private or in the public? That would be quite nice, no?
I mean,
Oh,
yes. Yeah,
imagine.
but doing it on an Instagram story as a professional athlete.
Yeah.
Come on. Hedman. You're in my bad books now.
But yeah, I mean, one thing, if you were watching some of the threads on the Twitter, there was a lot of Chinese people going absolutely angry at this as well, because they were saying like, yeah, you come to our country, you're damaging this, you're not thinking of potential sponsorships and all this. And I mean, China is a huge market for sports as well. So this is the kind of thing that could screw it up for cycling at all. Completely, which I think is quite bad, and it's not really one of the big sports in China at all.
No, it's not really, but hopefully it does grow in the future. They've got a big, like I said, they've got a big market for it, and I've watched plenty of videos recently about cycling in China and the crit scene and how they have like massive prize money pools for lots of crits and stuff. So obviously they've got an interest there, a grounding to build upon. So yes, I guess pros coming in and insulting them culturally is not the most enticing thing for people to then say, I am going to go do this sport. And people are like, do you mean the sport where some of the people who were doing it were kind of racist towards us? And they were like, yeah, actually, maybe you're right. Maybe I should just do another sport instead. Yeah, it's not the greatest image, is it? I'm not sure if there'll be any long-term repercussions of it. I think that we'll probably hope that it's just kind of swept under the cyclocross rug that's slowly kind of wafting over us. In fact, Waterloo, the first cyclocross kind of like race of the World Cup, it's going to be live today. Not whilst we're recording. It's going to be like an hour afterwards, but that'll be quite cool.
It's not just like a cultural thing. It's like an ethnic thing, and like really, like it's like we like backtracked to a point where like we're really like making fun of people's ethnicity. Like that's just, it's just wrong. They should know this. So not the best look. We'll see what happens to them in the future. I mean, we've seen plenty of scandals. Yeah, Antonio Tiberi killed a cat, and he's still on the world tour level. We've had a number of sort of questionable things happen over the past couple of years, and we just seem to be able to move past it somehow. So as much as they should be punished and so forth, and they have like get a stern talking to, we probably will forget about this in a couple months' time. But I guess for Madis Mikhels, he's young, so I guess this is like his like arrival onto the scene. He had a really good Paris-Roubaix, but this is how he's going to be remembered instead of his actual like racing results. A bit like Antonio Tiberi, how he's now and will be known as the guy who killed the cat instead of being like top 30 in Lombardia, whatever.
But wasn't this similar to Quinn Simmons as well? Who, well, that was on Twitter. It wasn't really in. Yeah, I don't think it was as bad, if I recall. I don't know.
No, I don't think. The Quinn Simmons one. I'm not justifying it, but I think there was less power with that one. I mean, this one is like two people involved. It ran through a lot of like Herbert and then Madis both talking about it, thinking it's funny, putting it online, and mocking like ethnicity instead of. I mean, Quinn Simmons to some extent used an emoji of like a non-white character talking about Trump, which isn't a great look. But I think a political view is different to full-blown racism. Oof. Comments debate.
I'm sure the comment section is going to love this.
The oppression Olympics. Let's go.
But I mean, there was a race. There is a race. It's not finished yet. The 4 stages have been done since, finished since we started recording. Started with Viviani taking his first World Tour victory for the first time in 4 years. So, yeah. Track star Viviani.
I mean, when was the last time? What was his last World Tour victory? Was it when he was at Quickstep, like 2019 at the Tour, something like that? I can't remember. I know he won a stage of a Tour.
I just looked it up. His last World Tour win was Ride London in 2019 rather.
Was it?
Oh, remember that race? Oh, sad times.
Back when Great Britain had a World Tour event. Wow, imagine that. That's a throwback. I was
Conti teams. Yeah. Oh no, we're going down a British cycling avenue again.
Oh god.
Nevertheless, Jonathan Milan in his last stage race with Bahrain, taking stage 2. Olaf Koy as well winning, and then Milan Vada that we spoke about.
Yeah, it's cool to see Vada take that one. Because not gonna lie, there was a lot of hype on Vada because he's a Dutch guy who came from mountain biking, and we thought he was the next coming of Mathieu van der Poel. But he's actually got he's got a World Tour win now. It's a pretty big deal. Second place was Remy Rochaz as well for Cofidis. So cool to see them get some good results at this level of race. I know it doesn't feel like a World Tour race, but it is still a World Tour victory. And Varda now leads the GC by 6 seconds to Rochaz.
Oh God! Oh, I just realised something. If Varda wins, that's going to be yet another Jumbo Visma like GC victory at a World Tour level for the year. Just when I thought it was over. At least it's somebody different. At least I can be like, at least it is somebody else.
And this could be crucial for the World Tour points battle. I mean, the maths, there's only 1,000 points between them. Can they get 1,000 points with this win?
I think the stage races only give you I want to say 500.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna.
You're right. It feels so weird that there's this is a World Tour level event. Nobody, no offense to the race, but just nobody in the cycling sphere really gives this race any sort of pedigree in the grand scheme of things. I put this on the same level as a Volta Comunitat Valenciana in terms of my hierarchy.
Whoa!
I don't even think it's on that level.
That's a great race.
Well, that's pro race, isn't it?
Maybe the Tour of Yorkshire.
Hang on, let's not degrade the Tour of Yorkshire. Let's not go that far.
I love the Tour of Yorkshire when it existed.
That's still a sore wound.
This really does. It feels like a novelty race. It's in China, which is cool, but at the same time,
it's like those criteriums.
Yeah, I think the Tour of Beijing had a higher prestige than the Tour of Guangxi Lake. Oh, just Guangxi now. I'm not in love with this race. I think you can tell. Oof, shock.
Bring back the Gran Camino.
Exactly. All I want are more races that follow Catholic pilgrimage routes. That's all I'm asking for.
Tour of California, bring that back.
That's not a Catholic pilgrimage route.
No, but I want it back. It'll never come back now because Piers de Pagan's gone. We might as well stay in Asia. Was it the Japan Cup and there was a stage race as well, or no? Or just the Japan Cup?
I think there was the Japan Cup and then there was a prelude criterium. Yeah, it's 30 odd K, and Edward Turns won it, I think, for the second year running. But the kind of controversy in there is that Maxim van Gils did a full-on right hand smack against this guy called Bouglas, I want to say. He's this Greek sprinter. Van Gils was given a penalty and fine by the UCI for his actions. Van Gils stated, or people saw that this guy was chopping about in the sprint. He put his hand on a Jaco Alula rider and tried to push him in the midst of the final kilometre or so, and I think Van Gils was just making his opinions clear as to what he thought of such actions inside the final kilometre, which I don't want to say that I'm endorsing this kind of behaviour, but he did it because somebody did something wrong, from a sort of sprinting etiquette standpoint. So I think he was just, making sure that this guy was on the same wavelength as everybody else. It's a bit of a shame because, like you say about Madis Mikhels, he will now sort of be known as, do you remember that guy who did that, racist stuff? Van Gils might now always have that thing over him where oh, do you remember when he almost did really good on Grand Colombier in the Tour? It's do you remember when he absolutely right hooked that guy in that Japanese sprint? But he made some pretty decent contact, to be fair to him. It wasn't it didn't kind of glance off. It was pretty good, full on good contact.
You should do the Moscon way of just doing as much as possible, and then people will forget about the single thing because there's so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Start throwing people's bikes.
It really is a way to put a downer on what's been a really, really good season. But he bounced back, and at the Japan Cup, which was the long distance race, he finished in 4th place. So fair play to him. It was won by Rui Costa, ahead of Felix Engelhardt in 2nd, and 3rd place for Guillaume Martin, who's got really good form at the moment, it must be said. Also inside top 10, Mikael Valgren. Bit of a blast from the past. He's actually riding for the development team this year, but he's apparently bouncing back to the World Tour level team next year.
Yeah, he's been struggling with injury quite a lot. So, yeah.
I think it'll be good to have him back because he was always do you remember like when there was the Leuven World Championships and Valgren had like that 2 week form, like 2 week golden period where he just like won 2 races and then he came like on the podium of world champs. Like he just gets that like golden little period in the autumn classics period, and he's just like such a hard man to crack. He's literally like the Danish Lutsenko at that point.
Well, actually, that's quite a good one.
I think he is.
He doesn't climb as well as Lutsenko, though. I don't think he would win the Turkey stage.
Not many people climb as well as Lutsenko.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's a high bar to be setting for people. We can't expect this greatness from everyone.
But I mean, that aside, the Chrono des Nations was also one of the strangest events because it's a time trial. That's it. There's no stage race attached to it. Happens every year. And Remco Evenepoel and Josh Tarling were there, and Josh Tarling got the better of Remco.
Yep, Tarling taking the win, 13 seconds ahead of Evenepoel and 1 minute and 10 seconds ahead of the former European champion Stefan Bissegger. This was Tarling's first outing in that European jersey that he won 2-3 weeks ago, and proving that he's evidently on good form, and he is able to beat Remco Evenepoel not once but twice, which is very, very impressive indeed. But second place for Evenepoel. He's had quite a lot of second places this year as Remco, and he's becoming the new Wout van Aert in a way.
Imagine. I was going to say, I mean, outside of Tarling, and like his brother also did good in the juniors. Tarling finished second in the junior version of this event. Evenepoel second, and the more interesting thing that I see from this is Uijtdebroeks came here and he finished 14th, which was 4 minutes and 7 seconds down on Tarling. And if anything, this highlights to me what I've said before, which is that Uijtdebroeks, if he's going to be a serious GC contender, needs to improve his time trialing. Because I know it's Josh Tarling and Evenepoel and stuff, but the fact that Evenepoel put nearly 4 minutes into him over 45k, that's a minute every 10 kilometers. It's quite a lot.
Also in this race, Alexey Lutsenko, who was only second at the Belgian National Championships, not far. Well, I mean, he beat Remco because he pulled out. But Alexey Lutsenko was only 3 minutes and 22 seconds back. It's not a great performance from him. Maybe Uijtdebroeks as well, just fading out at this point in the season.
I feel like this race is always the Chrono des Nations. It's always a bit hard to draw conclusions because, like you're right, it's what's the motivation like on the 15th of October when people are, thinking more about what they're going to be dressing up for Halloween rather than how many watts you can put out in a freaking 1 hour TT. Like, should I go as a zombie? Should I go as Postman Pat? Should I try and put out 350 watts for an hour? It's down there on my priority list, to be honest with you. So maybe Uijtdebroeks is just thinking about trick-or-treating.
I was just about to say, given that he's like 13 years old,
Uijtdebroeks
is definitely in the age bracket for trick-or-treating.
Him and Segard probably are going to go trick-or-treating together.
Do
the Belgians give each other trick-or-treating?
Yeah,
is it just regular
do they
sweets?
care? Yeah.
About Halloween?
Yeah. Do they?
Belgians in the comments section.
Yeah, there we go.
Do you do trick-or-treating? And if so, what do you give each other? Because I just imagine it's just like Powell's sauces just going around to each other, just sachets of like curry ketchup.
You go with like a pack of fries from the friture, and you go around and you get like little dashes of sauce to put in your fries. And if one of the houses is feeling really generous, they'll put out like a sausage or a bakey burger. I know that's a cultural thing in Belgium.
Sugar waffle or something like that.
They put something out there.
Well, Tarling, let's focus on him, the winner. Where does this kind of rank in terms of his European Championships?
I mean,
is this better?
I think the Euros was more impressive. It was a shorter course. This is 45 kilometers and it was only 13 seconds into Evenepoel, so closer than it was at the Europeans. But I don't know, I feel like the Europeans, because it's the European Championships, probably has a higher bar than Chrono des Nations. There only were really 3 contenders in this race as well.
Yeah, the thing which I'm more concluding is, like you say, Ewan, is that the European Champs was a shorter course, like it's generally like 25k, I want to say. So that's like, but whereas this is a longer effort, so it shows that, Tarling's good over multiple distances. I mean, we saw that World Champs as well, that was a long one. Like, he can do it all, whereas we've seen in the past, there's been definite guys like a Bissegger, for example, who've been very good at when it's sort of like 15k or below. They're really good at kind of the shorter efforts, whereas Tarling's obviously showing competency over a great range of time trialing kind of distances. So I think that bodes really well going into the next year, that Tarling could probably rack up 4 or 5 TT wins next year. I wonder if he'll go to a Grand Tour, actually.
That was exactly what we're going to move on to. The route's out. It looks quite favorable to a Tarling. So, well, what did you make of the route? You and I dissected it over on the second day in extra and weren't really that impressed. The gravel stage, very meh. Stelvio not used in the critical part of a stage and very top heavy in terms of the first week.
That's true. I like the double ascent of the Monte Grappa, though. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a cool thing. But having a descent on the final mountain stage of the race, I think that kind of kills the vibe.
It makes it seem like more of a breakaway day than a GC action sort of day.
Yeah. And then as well,
sketchy.
And we have it's a hilly stage the day before, flat stage before that. It's just going to feel like we're just waiting on this Monte Grappa stage, and it might not even deliver. To be honest, I just feel like the route isn't very inspiring. I'm not like super hyped, and I love the Giro. It's my favorite Grand Tour, but I think the first week will be really interesting. Apart from that, I think it loses momentum in the parkour, to be honest.
Right, speaking of Tarling, would you send him here? If you consider that Evenepoel is more than likely going to the Tour, that means his biggest competitor to taking a debut Grand Tour victory is likely his own teammate Filippo Ganna, and Ganna might very well get sent to the Tour. We don't really know. I think that Tarling could honestly get a Grand Tour victory next year.
But for these two guys, they both have the Olympic Games on their mind next summer, particularly Pippo Ganna. When Pippo did the Olympics in 2021 in that COVID Tokyo Olympic Games, he did the Giro, didn't do the Tour de France. He might do the same this time around. And he didn't do the Tour de France this year, and then he went to the World Championships just after the Tour de France. Maybe that plays into it as well.
But it is easier because this time the Olympics is in the same country. It's not in a different continent.
True. Yeah, true. That does factor into it. And this Olympics, they weren't rescheduled a year, less than a year in advance. So yeah, we'll find out. But I for some reason, I think Ganna will do the Giro again. Oh, sorry.
Or what?
The Tour de France begins in Italy next year.
Yeah, he might go then.
He's literally contractually obliged.
But during the presentation, he was saying that, I'll have to look out for this stage. Like he made it sound like he is going to the Giro, but who knows?
And there is a TT not that far away from where he grew up, so maybe that's like an incentive to get him on the start list. That one that goes around Lake Garda, it's not that far away from where he grew up, so maybe that's an incentive.
Yeah, I reckon if Ganna and Tarling both lined up, I'd still give Tarling a good 50-50 split of beating Ganna head to head. I think I'm confident.
You
got the hilly one as well, the hilly semi-heavy.
He ain't going to win that, though.
Who, Tarling or Ganna?
Yeah, Pippo's not going to win that either.
Yeah. We desperately need a team time trial here. Don't worry, it's coming in the Tour. I've heard it's coming up the Alpe d'Huez. No.
That'd be so good.
I would love to see that.
It won't matter. Ineos don't have anybody good enough to compete.
Favorite stage of the Giro 2023, and we haven't even talked about who could possibly want to do this Giro as well in terms of favorites.
Favorite stage is stage 2. I love Europa. I think it's a really cool climb, and I'm happy we have a summit finish in the first weekend of racing. That'll be quite cool. I don't know whether it's going to kill the race, but Europa it's not like a hugely destructive climb, but it always gives us a little bit of action and intrigue, and it could be cool to see that on day 2. In terms of the favorites, I mean, you could say Hindley, because there's only one long flat TT, and time trialing is not his thing, but there aren't that many mountains. There's quite a lot less climbing than last year in terms of the vertical meters as well. I think it also probably suits Alexey Lutsenko, those kind of types who they can time trial well, but don't quite have the mountain legs of a world-beating Pogačar or Vingegaard.
And he isn't going to the Tour because of the Mark Cavendish project. Here we go. Lutsenko for the Giro, believe.
But Lutsenko never does the Giro.
maybe now.
It's hard to tell. No one's really put their hands on the table and said, "I'll go for it." Pogacar could do it. I feel like if he wants to win a Giro, this one suits him, but any route would suit Pogacar.
I like stage 16 to Levingo. I think that one looks pretty good. Even though it's like it kind of goes like up a massive climb, it drops down, and it goes up a little climb at the end. I quite like that in a way. It might instigate a bit of earlier attacking on the bigger climb, considering that it's not too long to the finish. You get that downhill and then a kick again. I think that could be an interesting one from a GC perspective. Stage 16, so people aren't going to be like on their knees. They might still sense a kind of chance of doing something in GC. So that's kind of got like it's kind of in the middle of a Venn diagram where people aren't too knackered. It's not like stage 20 where they're just like dead. Yeah, so I quite like the stage 2 Levingo. That's one of mine.
But also thinking about that stage, the day before you have a time trial. How do you think that's gonna?
Well, because then you might get
it?
you get the kind of rubbish GC time trialists then kind of launching it into the break. It's a full-on Guillaume Martin kind of day, is what I'm seeing. It's like a Martin Ciccone kind of stage to me. And I always feel like those sorts of stages where those two are involved are usually quite interesting. So yeah, that's one of my more favorite ones. But yeah, in terms of who could do well here, I'm interested to see who Ineos send, actually. I would quite like to see them send somebody like Carlos Rodriguez here, rather than sending him to the Tour against all the juggernauts of the sport, where let's face it, it's going to be super hard to beat them, even though he did do a very, very admirable performance this year. I think that Rodriguez could have a good shot with the, he's decent at time trialing, but I think that he could honestly maybe like top 5 or on a really, really good run, maybe podium this race, considering that all the juggernauts seem so focused on the Tour next year.
What about Juan Ayuso?
Yeah, I was thinking that as well. That would be a good one.
I would think
Jumbo send as well.
Yeah.
Sepp Kuss.
Roglic.
He's gone.
No. Who do they send?
I don't know.
Jorgensen? No, he doesn't care about 8th place anymore, doesn't he?
No, he doesn't care about 8th place. He wants to be a teammate.
Who would you send from Jumbo? If you can't send Jonas and you can't send Seppi, and who do you send? You send like a Coy.
What?
Coy, yes. Let's finally get Olaf Coy a Grand Tour start. Good point.
Yeah.
But they want to keep the 100% record up.
Yeah, that's true.
But they've lost one of their guns now.
Who would you send? Who else would you send from Jumbo, though, as like a breakaway sort of style guy to win from, that sort of scenario? Like a Thomas Gloag might be quite good to send, I think.
Yeah, isn't it going to be like Koen Bouwman, that kind of season where they won with him and then took the blue jersey? Is that the kind of Jumbo team we're going to see?
Yeah. Send Persland Hagenens right now.
They still have Tobias Foss, right? Where's he going?
He might be going to Ineos next year. We still don't know. But he's not staying at Jumbo. But yeah, like the way that Jumbo used to do their team is like sending lots of like their younger children almost to the Giro. In that, the Koen Bouwman one, we saw like Hayes Leemreize really break through. We could see that with a lot of their riders next year, because I noticed this year, although they've got a lot of really good young riders, they didn't really field them to many Grand Tours. Michel Hessman and Tom Gloag got dropped into the Giro team, but Gloag wasn't supposed to be there. They had COVID ripping through the team in the week leading up to that race. So maybe we will see more of these youngsters finally get a Grand Tour start next year and really try to sort of break through the ranks. Johannes Staune-Mittet, for instance, just 21 years of age, could make his Grand Tour debut at the Giro. That could be really intriguing for someone who we know has an awful lot of talent. Also, Ben Tullett as well from the United Kingdom. He's just moved across. He rode a really good Giro back in 2022. Could be thrown into this start list as well.
I just like to see the Van Dijk twins be used for something. To be honest, we're so underutilized.
Well. I think your Coy, what was it? Campaign protest you're going to do in front of the Jumbo bus if they don't send him to a Grand Tour.
I'll graffiti on the bus. I don't know what I'll put.
Coy. Olaf Coy.
Yeah, Olaf Coy. Put your suggestions down in the comment section for what I will be graffitiing onto Jumbo Visma's bus if they don't send Olaf Coy to a Grand Tour.
Which race as well? Is it just any race?
Literally. Can we reinvigorate? Get Stefan Krausweg back on the GC horse. Send him to the Giro. We need to I'm not settling on that 2016 performance. We need him back.
But I mean, we might as well speak on that note in terms of the UCI rankings, the close race between UAE and Jumbo Visma. Very close for the top position. UAE are still winning, as you alluded to before. They won the Giro del Venato, the race that finishes in Venice, I think, or close to Venice. But who's been your team of the year in terms of looking at the World Tour season? Okay, the World Tour season isn't officially over, but let's just ignore that. And I mean, why is Jumbo your team of the year? That's what I'm asking.
It's not.
It's
I don't know.
We saw this coming, didn't we? It's not like you're in the fan bus.
Me not supporting Jumbo Visma. Unbelievable. Arkea, team of the season. I'm joking. I don't want to kind of like steal it, but I just think that Alpecin are my team of the year. The fact that Van der Poel and Philipsen were just insane. Groves as well coming in and just slotting into that lead out little bubble and like victories in all 3 Grand Tours. I just like how they just don't focus on GC. They just don't give a dog's like damn about it. They just go and do what they do. Classics, sprints. It's like the new quick step. Alpecin. That's my team of the year for being monuments. Love it. Philipsen being dominant sprinter. Love it.
Yeah, my team of the year has to be Jumbo. They filled out a Grand Tour podium. They won 3 Grand Tours. If you told me 12 months ago Sepp Kuss would win a Grand Tour this year, I wouldn't have believed you. They did it. They've also won so many other things. They're the European champions. They're all these different achievements. It's almost like they've won everything under the sun apart from a monument this year. It's very, very impressive. I can't really fault their performance. I mean, sometimes their tactics are questionable, but you know what? If it gets done, it gets done. And they won 3 Grand Tours, including the Tour de France. I can't pick anyone else. Sorry.
So I've been left with UAE. Well, I don't think that's a bad pick either. Movistar, who? I mean, UAE, if I have to build their case, it's kind of like 4th place on the World Tour with Juan Ayuso, Tadej Pogačar 2nd, winning stages in the Tour, winning Ronde van Vlaanderen, who saw that coming, and his incredible springtime season when you think about it, Paris-Nice, Amsterdam Gold, Flèche Wallonne, and up there in Milan-San Remo as well. And exactly. True. And they've had all the victories as well with teammates, so it's not just the Tadej Pogačar show, so... But they're a lot more, full now as a team.
And they've also won the UCI ranking, we believe, for the year. So I guess
not that anyone cares really. Let's be honest. Does any cycling fan actually care about the rankings? It's not like
UAE and Jumbo do, because it's quite close between them, and they want bragging rights. And they'll be
what
able
do
to
they
put
get?
It on their jersey.
What is that? It? Do they get like in Formula One? They get like massive prize money, but do they get anything for it in cycling? I don't know.
Money, but they do get to put like World Tour winners on the bus and on their jersey if they want for next year.
They get a free Bluetooth speaker.
My point isn't like, well done UAE, but it's more like UCI. Why haven't you done more to make this something? You haven't made it like prestigious.
Yeah, I think we're more looking at the people who are at the bottom end of the rankings instead of people who are at the top end of the rankings. But I think that's just because of the relegation system we now have in the sport.
Okay, we might as well flip it. Who's been your most disappointing team of the year?
They have to be a World Tour team.
No. Don't you dare pick Uno X.
No, I was just wondering. It felt like a little bit cruel to pick on Novo Nordisk or something. I don't know. It seemed a bit cruel.
Can I say my pick?
Yeah.
Anton Alshe.
Someone was going to go there.
Sorry. Thing is, they had such a good season last year, and it felt like they had a lot of momentum. The second half of 2021 was really, really promising. Last year, they were incredible across the board. This year, didn't really get much in return. Did they even win a Grand Tour stage this year? Ricochet at the Vuelta, sorry. But apart from that, they didn't really leave much of an impact on me. And they were, Biniam Girmay didn't really live up to the hype this year. They got a lot of really promising young sprinters in Page and Herbert, and they just let me down, to be honest. I wasn't enamored by their performance this year.
I'm thinking guys like AG2R, DSM, even like, dare I say, Groupama, for my expectations versus reality. The highlight was when Godou managed to was on the podium of Paris-Nice and just nothing else. I know that Madouas came, he won the national champs and that was really cool, and he won Britannia Classic. Like that was I had quite a lot of expectation for them. But I've had to pin somebody down. You know what? Jayco. I'll say Jayco. I know that Michael Matthews won a stage, but where were they? What, Groenewegen? Did he do something this year? Like, considering that Jayco, what I kind of consider them to have been in the past, like it's just like, I don't know. I don't think they really came anywhere close to what they have been capable of in the past. So I'll pick them. Of them, 5 that I wanted.
I was gonna go for EF almost because of Carapaz, but that seems very mean considering like Ben Healy doing quite well and Nilsson Palace as well in the early part of the season. Yeah, AG2R I think is quite a good one. Ineos, I mean, that's just because you're comparing them to like Team Sky, but yeah, no, yeah, Into My Shades, quite a sad one. DSM, no, that's a bit harsh. Coffee is definitely not. Arkea for sure.
DSM, I think, at the bottom of the UCI rankings. No, I tell a lie. Astana Kazakhstan.
Oh no.
No,
Lutsenko.
no, it's fine.
Okay, what do we think about Astana's season? Because they've technically had the worst one because they're the lowest on the UCI rankings. I'll be honest.
Hype. Like,
yeah, I think it's more hype than actual results.
This isn't some quantitative ranking that we're giving here. This is gut feels only.
It's so vibes based, but they only got one World Tour level win this year, and that was from Cavendish.
I could say the same thing about Groupama though. Groupama's only World Tour victory came from Britannia Classic.
True, but then Groupama top 5'd the Giro, came second at Paris-Nice, podiumed Strade Bianche, were right up there in a number of races. I don't think this is Groupama's best season. I think Groupama underperformed this year, but I don't think it's not exceptionally underperforming. If I'm honest as well, Arkea Samsic really let me down. I was expecting more from them. Yeah. They only had 10 victories this year, none of which are the World Tour level. I really expected them to make that step up, a bit like Intermarché did in 2021, where they moved onto the World Tour level and really jumped up, and we've seen it before with other teams, but we just didn't see that from Arkea this year. It was quite disappointing, even though Kevin Vauquelin looked really good at the beginning of the year. Later on in the Grand Tours, they weren't very memorable at all at either 3 Grand Tours.
Okay, we might as well change it to, well, we're going to do Rider of the Season, but let's do Domestique of the Season because that sometimes is a bit overlooked. It is a team sport, as we know. What Domestique performances have kind of stood out for you? I'll start it off with Maxim van Gils at the Tour de France was absolutely phenomenal for Jasper Philipsen.
I think I've got a good one. Mine is Skelmos Jensen. Do you remember at the Tour, the amount of times he was towing Cicconi's arse up those climbs to get those KOM points? And World Championships, he was like the MVP teammate for Mads Pedersen in that race. Like he was holding that race together for those few laps before Van der Poel decided to do Van der Poel things. And like he was almost instrumental to keeping that race together. And therefore, I know Pedersen didn't podium that race, but Pedersen did a very good showing. And I don't think it would have been as easy to do that if it wasn't for Skelmoser. And I'm probably forgetting other things that he did, but I think that Skelmoser was an underrated teammate from this year.
I mean, Sepkus is the open door, but he's now a Grand Tour winner. Does that make him a domestique anymore? Adam Yates as well. Brilliant Tour de France. Also was super useful in Lombardy and other races as well for Tadej Pogacar this year. Don't know whether it's just too Tour de France focused. Elsewhere, Attila Valter really stood out to me. I know he had a dodgy Strade Bianche, but for me, I think Valter really, really stood out as someone who was willing to help his teammates and be there when he needs to be there. And to be honest, I'd like to see him at the Tour de France next year.
I mean, Sepkus, it has to be almost. Like you said, I know you said he's now a Grand Tour winner, but what he did at the Giro for Roglic on stage 16 was race winning, race saving for sure.
And also the other pulls he did at the Tour de France as well. He was sitting inside top 10 in GC then before he crashed. He was really, really strong at the Tour de France, to be honest. We can say Sepkus is a domestique. He's back to that. He's back to that status. That is his bread and butter after all.
Well, Pools was pretty good as well. It's easy to forget those last week of Vuelta. I know Landa didn't end up coming on the podium, but he did a very good performance. I think Wout Pools, was again perhaps one who goes under the radar. I know it was quite focused on that Vuelta, but he must have done stuff in the Tour as well, where he was helping out Bilbao and stuff. So just another name in the ring.
It is such a hard one because sometimes it's like some of the work isn't even televised. Tim de Klerk, those kind of guys. But yeah, we might as well finish this little segment with best rider of the year. And I guess we know who Ewan's picking, but Patrick, who are you picking?
I'm going to pick Jasper Philipsen as my rider of the year. I think Philipsen has hands down been the best sprinter. I don't think anybody can really disagree with that. And in fact, he is the most winningest rider. 19 victories this year, a green jersey, run for the ages where he was just massively dominant, plus his Roubaix podium as well, where he finished in second place. I think that Philipsen, in my opinion, from where he was end of last year versus where he's finished this year, I think it was like a huge improvement, in my opinion. Maybe it's just things finally aligned, but I think Philipsen had a fantastic year, and I really hope that he does equally as well, and I hope somebody else steps up to compete against him, because otherwise it's going to be a runaway victory again.
I'm picking Tadej Pogacar.
Oh, shock. Hold the presses. Who saw that coming?
Okay. He won 2 monuments, second place at the Tour de France, Paris-Nice win, Flèche Wallonne, Amstel Gold, a number of big wins under his belt, a World Championship medal. Yeah, in terms of getting the monuments as well as getting the Grand Tour results, I think that perfect balance makes Tadej Pogacar undoubtedly my rider of the year. But there is one big rider still left on the table.
What, Jonas Vingegaard?
I'm thinking of the world champion.
Yeah, I know, but am I picking Jonas? Am I picking what? Mathieu van der Poel? Not even a world champion, double world champion as well. Or Pidcock even.
Do that much.
Excuse me. Dauphiné, Basque Country.
Dauphiné, Basque Country Tour, it's only 3.
Gran Camino, that.
Oh, that's the most important one. Let's be real.
But yeah, I will pick Mathieu van der Poel because, winning Paris-Roubaix, winning Milan-San Remo, winning the World Championships, and being an absolutely incredible teammate for Jasper Philipsen. I think that is incredible, but it could have been Jonas Vingegaard as well. No one entertaining the idea of Remco? Nah.
Not really.
No.
Grand Tour podium.
Yeah.
That's
Plus,
true.
Van der Poel was also cyclocross world champ. That's just like another...
Yeah, exactly.
Plus a podium at Flanders.
Shall we move across to our very brief transfers?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Well, a couple transfers announced this week. Caleb Ewan is leaving Lotto Destiny. He's moving back across to JK Al-Ula, where he began his career. Also, Stanislav Aniokovsky is moving to Cofidis. He was on the human-powered health squad. That sinking ship, we believe the men's team is folding at the end of this year, so he now has a World Tour contract, which is really good news. Philip Matsiuk, who you might remember from Ronde van Vlaanderen, causing a big crash. He's moving to Bora Hansgrohe next year from Bahrain Victorious. Interesting to see indeed. Also, Stan van Tricht is moving to Alpecin de Koning after a couple of years with Soudal Quickstep. For some reason, my mind went blank. And also, to be fair, that's most of the big ones. I think we can call it quits at that. But Caleb Ewan, I think, is quite a big one this week. And also, Dylan Groenewegen has extended his contract at JK Al-Ula.
Rui Costa, did you mention him?
Oh, yes, sorry, Rui Costa. We were talking about him during Lombardia for not having a contract next year, but that has changed. He's now moving to EF in the new year, we believe, which will be exciting for him. The 37-year-old who has reinvigorated his career this year, including this week with a win at the Japan Cup.
I honestly think that EF, when you look at the transfers other teams have made, I think EFs are the coolest. Hands down. Costa, Rutkin Gray, Lucas Narurka, like Archie Ryan, Darren Rafferty. It's just a cool list of guys coming into EF, and yeah, I think you should. It gives more and more reason to support like EF as like a cool little. I don't know, but they've just seemed really good at developing talent. So yeah, definitely watch out for EF next year, I think.
Caleb Ewan going back to JK Al-Ula. that one I thought was really strange considering, okay, him leaving, we knew that was going to happen. But yeah, I didn't expect him to go where Dylan Groenewegen is. And then you've got Simon Yates, Eddie Dunbar. Like, where does he even fit into that team in terms of Grand Tours or whatever?
I think this one's probably more of like an emotional transfer, where he's moving back to a team he knows well. He's had success with them. We won a Grand Tour stages with them in the past. He's never won a Tour de France stage with them, never got to ride a Tour de France when he was riding for this squad before. That we assume will change. But he's moving into a team that he knows well. A lot of the staff will be the same as when he was here a couple of years back. And given how things ended at Lotto Destiny, with that messy breakup between the management staff and Caleb Ewan, he probably was like, you know what, I'm just going to go somewhere I know people and I know they're not going to treat me that way. And for that reason, I think this move does make sense. I think this is more of a sort of emotional move than the performance one, because I mean, yeah, Groenewegen is here. I would say Groenewegen is probably better than Caleb Ewan. Do you agree?
Yeah, I guess I do. And also it's kind of like, yeah, and then like there's Matthews in there as well. It's just kind of like a big, we're kind of back to square one where they were both on the same team before, and or like it just doesn't work when Matthews and like another big sprinter's there. It's just like doesn't quite make sense, but at the same time, I think that it's one of the more logical ones, like transfers. I just associate Caleb Ewan with just like that outfit. I never felt like it clicked with Lotto Soudal, now Destiny. And yeah, I think I'm looking forward to seeing what Caleb did. I kind of want to see him back at like Tour Down Under, just hopefully just kind of ripping up some sprints there. That's kind of what I always associate Caleb Ewan with, was that kind of like hunched over the handlebars, young sprinter coming up when he was like 22, and he was like the last sort of like massive hot property sprinter. So I really hope there's sort of a return to the golden days of Caleb Ewan with his return to Jacob Alula, what was Mitchelton, Scott, Orica, Green Edge, yada yada yada.
But coming to Rider of the Week, and I mean the question is, who's going to be picking Alexey Lutsenko?
I might kick it on to one of you. I'll go with who will I go with? I will go with another main man of our channel, Mark Hershey. Very good at both of the sort of Veneto races. And yeah, hopefully, Ewan had an interesting stat. I think what was it? Every race that he's done since September or something, his lowest finishing is 26 or something like that. So consistent Hershey. Hopefully we see him back in 2021 Hershey form moving into next year and rightfully claiming his position as king of the Ardennes once more.
I'm picking Alexey Lutsenko because he won the Tour of Turkey. See, I didn't have to use much brain power this week because usually I'm like thinking about this for a while, but this is going to be Alexey Lutsenko. It might be the Tour of Turkey, but he is the full meal. I don't know where I was going with that. Scott, who's your rider of the week?
I'll keep it easy and say Jasper Philipsen. Is that did Lee didn't do anything? No. Okay, Jasper Philipsen. So yeah, on that interesting finish.
Yeah.
That's it for our 38th episode. Make sure to check us out over on Spotify as well. Do help us by giving us a 5-star review. And if you haven't already, make sure to comment down below what you thought of anything we discussed, and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel here on the Echelon Cycling Podcast, and we will see you next week.